There we are. Okay. Thank you so much, Wiry and Caleb, for the subs. Thank you so much. That's very kind of you. I wonder if this thing works now. Let's do this. I can. That's cool. Hello, Sent. That sounds like your prerogative, Wiry. So you got to do what makes you happy, right? Hi. All right. Let me start from the top. Hello, Enrico. How you doing? Hello, Caleb. How you going? Again, thank you, Caleb. Hello, Christopher. How you doing? Yes, you do have a bunny now. Hello, Sent again. And hello, Wiry. And thank you for the resub, Wiry. So what are we going to do today? Yes, is the answer. It's been a day. It's been a very late start. I had to take the bunny to the vet. He was being miserable. So they gave him some high quality drugs. And now he's, I don't know what he's doing, but he seems a bit more chill. So we'll see what happens there the coming few days. So there's that. Very exciting. I had an interaction with a stranger this morning, but without going into too many details, this thing looks a little bit wonky, doesn't it? Like that, right? Oh, probably Wiry. Probably. We'll assume so for now. I don't know how huge that difference is in your case, Christopher. Snap. But yeah. So someone came up to me this morning and said, "Can I ask you a strange question?" I'd be like, "Yeah, go for it." And he goes, "Do you have cancer?" And I was like, "Yeah, not that I know of." But that was a very surreal experience, right? That was a very surreal thing to be asked, right? This stranger, it's a complete stranger. He talked to me for a bit, and I understood why he asked me that, and we chatted a little bit. But that was like a very surreal interaction with someone who doesn't know you. They just come up to you and go, Can I ask you a strange question?" I'm like, "Yeah, go on then." "Do you have cancer?" "No, not that I know." "What do you know?" Anyway, so that was kind of surreal. Then home to dig up a stump, and that was a lot of work because stumps, unlike Linux, have all these roots. I don't know where I was going. That was kind of a half mangled joke, but I fixed my Wacom drawing board, as you can see. I should probably do a keyboard binding for this thing if I can. Can we do that? Like, I want to toggle visibility of that thing. Can we do that from settings? Hotkeys. Yeah, maybe we can. Yeah, we can do this. Oh wow, this is so good. So what should we put this one on? Not alt. Not that either. Should we go like F5, F4, F5? Maybe something more, right? Because F4, F5 could be other. That's kind of useful, right? Let's change that hotkey to be a little bit more. Let's Control Super Alt Shift S. That's a lot. Maybe we just bind. Maybe we do this, right? Da 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 ba da ba. We don't use these keys for anything. So could we bind something like F20 and F21 to these? And then here, we'll just do... No, it doesn't recognize the F20. I don't pick the super. Okay, but we can make super keys for this. So let's go and make a super key for this thing then. No, that's probably not what I'm looking for, is it? No, that's not at all what I was looking for. What am I looking for? Macros? How do we... Okay, what about advanced modifier? So we just do... How did I even make that? So I think we have that on a different layer, right? Yeah, that's one start recording and stop recording. It's a hyper key. Okay, there we maybe these are all the ones that I'm looking at. So that's what I want for this one. Oh yeah, we can do all this. We just put everything in there, right? There we go. And then this one will just be number 2, followed by all this stuff, right? Okay, let's give it some color as well. Let's go with... We can do light blue, dark blue, maybe, or like vibrant green. And then maybe, or should we go yellow, yellow, and then this one becomes a bit darker yellow, right? So that could be the off one. Okay. So let's see if that works now. Yeah. There we go. What is this one crying about? That's already in there? Oh my goodness. Okay, hang on. We have to use another key then. So we'll do 2 there and 3 there. And then we enable all of these then. Looks like I've already been too excited with these things. Save changes. All right, that's one button. That's another button. There we go, right? So now I can just hide and show my... And we'll lock this one in place. Ah, beauty. Right, nice one. If I ever have to doodle, there we go. All right. Rather than trying to recover from a syntax error, I'm thinking about stopping at the first one because error recovery is being a pain in the ass for me. Yep, that makes sense. I would totally do that. If you're doing that, why not just use the built-in parser of Anathema in that case? Just run until you hit an error, right? Yeah, this is, I'll try not to shield too hard for the keyboard today because I gotta get things done, but it is the best keyboard I've ever had. I was watching some keyboard making stuff, right? Do you guys ever do this when you have time off or like you have some spare time, you kind of just plop down in the sofa or whatever and you start watching countless YouTube videos? Do you ever do that? Do you just go like, oh, here's some bilateral, here's someone building a cabin in the woods entirely out of dandelions. Here's someone making food out of dandelions. Here's someone dressed like a dandelion. That's my life. So don't you? Thank you so much for the sub, by the way. We might not see the alerts. As you can see, the socials are missing from the bottom of the screen. And that's because there's an OBS browser issue. So we don't see alerts right now. That's very annoying. I should probably put a sticky on the thing. Let me do that. Let's put a... Should we do this as C stack and then we put an alignment? Right, and then we put a border. We just fill this with empty spaces like that. That kind of it would be nice if it was a little bit better. Oh, yeah, that's just gonna be gross, isn't it? Okay, what if we do this as a position instead? Oh shit, unrecoverable error. Well, that is now aptly named, isn't it? And we put an H stack in there. Right. Let's go with black here. And then we'll say alerts are not working today due to OBS browser plugin issues. There we go. Oh, there's so many style collisions, all right? So yeah, I asked you about the YouTube thing, right? So do you ever like watch YouTube and all this stuff? And afterwards, do you ever feel like do you almost get depressed from that? Like, what am I doing, man? Like, what am I doing with my life, right? I caught up on like a lot of things. But if you ask me if I learned anything from this, the answer would be a resounding what? Okay. Or shorts I never watch. Shorts are too annoying for me to watch. I make them sometimes. I find them funny to make because it's enough work that like it's small enough that you can finish one in a day, but it's enough work to make it kind of fun and worthwhile, right? If you had a productive day or not. I feel like, so I watched all these things. Then I went for a walk with a wife and I almost had an anxiety attack on my walk, right? I was feeling so bad. We were talking about things and I just said to her, like, I can't have this conversation. It's too depressing. I just can't. I'm starting to feel weird about this. And I was like, yeah, no. Don't watch often, but sometimes I get baited by a good one and makes me automatically doom scroll. Yeah, it is. Yeah, and that was kind of weird to sit there and watch all this stuff, right? So on one hand, I was like, yeah, I want to make some cool YouTube videos. And on the other hand, it's like, I hate what happens to my brain when I watch these too much, right? I think that it's fine to watch YouTube videos for half an hour in a day, but I don't think it's fine to only watch YouTube videos and then do some productive stuff for half an hour in a day, right? That's not okay. Is my thinking. The lethargia as well, right? But so I had some thoughts. I don't know what we're gonna do today exactly, but I had some thoughts about what we can do and where we're gonna go with this stuff, right? We'll see what happens, right? Again, so I'm starting off the stream on a bit of a weird tone. We're gonna move out of here. Like, as long as my view count is under like 40 and 50, it's okay to be a little bit weird. for some reason. I don't know why I decided that metric is like, but it's like the warm up of the stream is okay to just not be so entertaining, right? It's okay to be a little bit human for a brief spell. All right, whoops. But yeah. Yeah, like I think you can also say to YouTube like show me less shorts, and then it disables it for like a short period of time, right? But I think they discovered that shorts are like the new crack, so they're never gonna stop pushing shorts on you, right? But yeah. So what should we do then, right? Yeah, and also I got a little bit shocked by, or like thrown by, the fact that the bunny was showing signs of being unwell. And like when a bunny is unwell, it could be like a matter of hours, right? You're gonna react instantly. So we got it's like literally before I was gonna eat food and then get on with the streaming, and the bunny has been a little bit moody, miserable the last couple of days, but all of a sudden he just stopped eating. And he wouldn't come and eat any dandelions. He wouldn't have any water, nothing. He would just lay there. And I thought, okay, that's it. Are we on our way to GI stasis? I don't know. Call the vet, get an appointment, chuck him in the car, off we go, right? But here we are now, right? Why don't we get a bunny cam? Because the bunny is living in our living room with I can do this now. Look at this. I should probably always just have something. Where are we, right? Should always have like this thing running here, right? So I can doodle. This is so nice. Like an actual secondary screen, right? So our living room, it looks something like this, right? But not entirely, right? And then the bunny has a house here. It has a house here, and it has a house here. This is vastly inaccurate, by the way. And there's these big regions just covered with rugs and stuff here. And if I were to put a bunny cam, it would have to go here in the corner, which would like show the entire living room. So it wouldn't be a bunny cam as much as it would be a wife cam. And there ain't no number of subs that's going to make her tolerate that. So he just runs around up there, living with us, doing his thing. Yeah, I'm hoping that he has like a few more years in him. He had an X-ray and everything. He got some pain relief or painkillers and stuff. It was weird seeing a bunny X-ray. It's like, yeah, he's got some like blockage here. It's not good, and I have to give him this, and we're gonna give him some painkillers and stuff. And I was like, all right. Oh yeah, Nonsense got a lot of square meters for himself, or that he shares with us, but as far as he's concerned, it's his, right? But yeah, 3 cams of bunny houses. So I built a new house for him, but he wasn't super chuffed about the new house. He didn't really care that much about that. He still likes the old box the lawnmower came in. I bought a lawnmower a few years ago, and it came in a really big box, and obviously bunnies like boxes. So I was like, all right, bunnies have a box, and he just loves it. So I don't know where I would actually put the cameras, and even doing so would be a little bit difficult to get like the bunny in focus. But right now you would just see a couple of dry bunny poos and him laying down being chill. Is he old? He's about 5 years old. Bunnies can live till they're like 40 or whatever, but I don't think that's likely with him, since he's had so many illnesses and stuff already. Stress of managing all those houses, I know, right? And he doesn't even care about some of them, right? Not even a little bit, Skylar. Yeah. You piece of shit, right? Yeah, and I said to the wife, no more animals. If he dies now, that's it. I can't take any more of the heartache, right? We're not having any more animals. Yeah. I'm sure he'll be like, I don't feel too bad about this. We acted quickly. We don't know exactly what's wrong with him. It could be just the heat and too many pellets. We might have overfed him pellets. Maybe I've given him too many dandelions. Yesterday or the day before, we cleaned up his space, which means taking some of the rugs out and washing them. And while that's happening, his world shrinks by half, right? And he could just be pissy about that. It could just be a moody bun, and that's it, right? But yeah, it's been a strange day, a very strange day. But yeah, I can show you this, right? This is what it looks like. You can see the this, and then I can just doodle. It's like super nice to have this, right? It's a fourth screen. I probably don't need to have that open, but yeah. Okay, so what was I thinking about doing today? I don't know. I got really excited about something though. Oh yeah, now I know why it's so warm in here. It's warm outside, but also I forgot to bring my fan down. So, hello 3Code, how you doing? I think what we're gonna do, we might do some work on a we'll build something from scratch-ish, right? No, it's Wacom 1. We're your fans. Of course, Keeney. You just blow in my general direction. Okay. Let me get a glass of ice water and a fan, and we'll get programming. Okay. Ice water. Fan. We're good to go. And I have the blinds open today, but that doesn't mean anything to you guys. Hello, Temporis. How you doing, buddy? Yeah, I got a bit late with the stream, but here we are. Okay, now, enough misery and bullshit. Let's do some programming, shall we? There's some music. What am I even listening to? Oh, Spotify, you sausage. All right, whatever. That's a bug, but who cares? Okay, so I started this game engine project a while ago, and that was pretty hectic and a lot of stuff going on there. Because I tried to set it up for Lene is a treasure, right? I tried to set it up for catering to all kinds of circumstances, but I think we're gonna do the opposite instead, right? Check this out, Temporis. I have a dedicated Infiniboard thing. All you can see is the Octobox there, right? An Infiniboard tablet. How about that, Tempe? How about that? I don't get it, Wiry. It's not really. It works like an additional screen that you can doodle on. So it's still on my yes. Let's just go with that. There you go. Scott can identify objects in the view. Oh, how punctured and deflated I feel after all that. Not the conversation about the Wacom tablet, but the gardening, physical work, and then emotional work, and then streaming. Okay, I don't know how I'm gonna get out of this. Oh no, my garden is overgrown, Rudy. So I have to degrow the garden. I took a stump up today, and that was a lot of work. Oh my god. We're gonna get with the programming. I just gotta snap out of it a little. Right. Yes, so I mentioned we started a game engine project, right? That was supposed to do all kinds of things like WASM and blah blah blah, right? But that one is far from useful, right? What I wonder is maybe we can make a really small game engine. Like we just build something that is heavily reduced, and then we kind of see what we can do with that instead. Because we talked about, do you guys remember the MVM, the Magic Virtual Machine, right? So I've been thinking about this a little bit. If you guys don't remember, Rebel was in the chat, and he complained about magic systems, and I said, yeah, what if you could like add things together? And then I talked about like, what if you had like the environment as a variable that your spell is acting within. So you throw a fireball in a cold environment, it's gonna affect everything. Or so you get the environment in, and then it affects the environment, so you get the environment out, right? So maybe the environment in a cold environment, it will reduce the intensity of the fireball, and then going out of it, the fireball, which is still possibly warm, will affect the environment on its way out, right? And I think that would be really fun, right? Yeah, you kind of have to just dig around. So I was fortunate, Wire, because I had someone I could ask about these things. But and the likes. But obviously you could join the Rust Game Dev Discord. That's full of people who know things that they might be able to help as well, right? But I really like this idea of the magic virtual machine, where we load a virtual machine with instructions that will produce spells that will be executed with an environmental input and output. And I think that will be very cool. And now to make this part of a game loop, I don't know. Right? I don't know. But if you think about it, like you are kind of programming a spell. Let's say you have a spell book in which you construct this, and you need some objects as well. So you don't have everything when you start. So you can sort of like choose, you can choose an element and things. And we need to have like modifiers on this thing, right? So we have a spell, and we have modifiers, we have environmental inputs and output. And I think this will be very cool. Conceptually, this is cool. But how do we make this into a fun game loop though, right? Because that's the... I mean, we could kind of go the bilateral route, right? Where the spell, it's almost like you use sort of almost like jokers to manipulate this. And when I say the bilateral route, I mean like you have one attack sequence. But I don't want to make a card game though. But it would be kind of like that. Like you have hit points, and your opponent has hit points, and you have to craft these spells against your opponent. Yeah, I think that could work. What if we did that and we combined that with like the Bunny City Builder that we did as well? So you kind of have to get resources, and you have to, I don't know, if you research or navigate into the world to discover new spells, new components for building these spells. But at the heart of this, we have the MVM, the Magic Virtual Machine, which you basically program. You load instructions into this thing, and it will execute spells, basically. I think that would be very cool. Fun in games, discover itself. Yeah, so I'm not really a seasoned game developer, so it's hard to say, but I do know that if a game loop sucks, you don't pursue it. So if you make something, you spend 3 months making something, you play it and be like, wow, this is really boring. Then don't pursue it, right? If you think it's boring as sin, then just leave it be and start another project, right? But nothing's going to be done unless we can actually build this up. So there was a lot of criteria for the game engine we had. Hello, Suyash. So instead of having all these criteria, let's reduce them down to smaller, to a lot smaller scope, right? So let's just go with some kind of wish list or almost like a definition for this thing, right? No. So we already have the bund engine. We need a we need a name for a tiny game engine. We're not going to call it tiny. Something, right? But it's gonna have a lot of stuff, right? Or it's gonna have a lot of large features. Not a lot of large. It's gonna have large features. It's gonna have networking. It's gonna have graphics. It's gonna have audio. And instead of doing, we're gonna cut some corners here, right? Instead of building something that is how do you express this? It's not going to be feature complete by any stretch of the imagination, and it's not going to be highly optimized because we're going to make everything operate over the network. Because that's always been like how I feel. Like can't drink through this. Ickle bitty. I can't say bitty without me thinking about Little Britain. I want bitty. And that is such a disturbing thing, right? So once you have to get a job as a new grad, what will you do? I will first celebrate the amount of time travel I must have invented to get there. I don't know, this product thing is not working. I don't know, this product thing is not working for me. Okay, so what is it that isn't working, Suyash? Let's go with that. Let's start there, right? Like chat, spell chat. Yeah, totally, Tori. We could absolutely do that, right? Make a kernel anti-cheat for your game. I'm sure everyone would love this idea. I think that's proven already, Wiry. That's what you need, right? But itty bitty kitty committee. We need a name for this thing, right? I think there's already a bunch of game engine names for small game engines. There are already a bunch of small game engines, right? But if you are looking for a game engine, then that's obviously what you should do, right? Let's see. Do we have? I thought we had like one for engines, right? Tutorials. Do we not have like game engines? Get started. There we go. The thing that making things will get me a job, I bet something for the people who asked to do that. I had a meet with them and then they said, we are still thinking about this. Nothing like a proper explanation. Wait. Suyash, you built something for someone who didn't pay you to build it? Is that what happened? You have to tell me more now. We can monetize it. Yeah, that's the thing I'm so bad at. You gotta name it But we could name it But Why. Buttwhy. But why? I would almost be on board with that, Dayloop. I think that's not a bad idea goal, but if we go to Rust and we find Loopy there, okay, no, that one's not in there. We already have something here, but no, I thought I had something named Loopy already, so I didn't, right? It was an intern challenge. I completed it, but got nothing. I feel like you just got taken advantage of there, right? Yeah, all right. Cinnamon bun. I think that's getting a little bit too close to what Ekton did because he called his GUI after GUI buns. And we talked about cinnamon buns and such. So that would be too close to that. Yeah, but why would be a little bit funny because the why are you building a Rust game engine, right? We call it tick after game loops, but that's also a gross thing that hides in the bushes and drinks your blood when you're not looking. Either she's very calculating and smart, Scott, or you just got caught being a lazy dad. I don't know which one it is. I'm sure that's fine. I like the idea of regifting. I think regifting is wonderful. It might seem a little bit like, oh, you know, but when you give, especially at like kids' birthday party, when they invite their friends and their friends all buy something cheap and meaningless to each other, I think like regifting is fine because you're just adding to a landfill, right? Oh man, that just sounds like you got taken for a ride, Suyash. That just sounds like way too much work for some kind of intern thing, right? Nonsense. I think we could call it I think we have too many things called nonsense though, right? Yeah, I think Suyash, that is a very very unethical thing to do. And if you guys keep doing these coding challenges and tasks for companies, then you just keep this thing alive, right? It's like that first idiot who did it for the exposure. He just tried to everyone else over, but you know. Okay, let's just call this thing. We need some or should we ask Duck.ai, my favorite thing, okay? Now, can you guys guess what game engine names we're gonna get from Ducky here, okay? Something, it's gonna be a lot of 2-word things because that's all it can output. And they're gonna contain words like craft and engine, and it's gonna be all like super generic and completely without any identity. All right. Okay, let's try. Suggest 10 names for a small game engine project. Yeah, roughly this. Roughly this. Okay, let's see. Let's see if craft is in here. No, but oh yeah, there it is. And forge. And all right, so there's like these engine, craft, and forge are always part of this. As a matter of fact, let's do this, right? Suggest a name for a accounting application. Okay, we didn't get a craft in there. Okay, maybe I need to try something else, right? Suggest a name for a small network library then. No craft, but there's always two words almost, right? Whoops, I didn't mean to do that. Let's take that away. It's shameful. Eco Y quest. Nimble, but maybe not nimble. Nubby, Bitwave, Dream Engine. Ooh. It's so obsessed with the word forge that it uses it twice as well. Ask it to be creative. Be more creative. Like Virus said. Chrono Canvas. Lunatic. All right, there we go. We're going to call this thing Lunatic. With that spelling. There we go. NetEase just sounds like a laxative. It really does, doesn't it? Oh, I love the Quiet Comfort, Scott. They are so good. And my kid did the exact same thing. I bought a pair for the wife that we kind of shared a bit. And then somehow my kid just started using them and they sort of just became hers somehow. I have no idea, right? I think it works. And the tick would be for like the engine ticking over. Now, there's a lot of this. We're gonna take the WGPU code from Bungie here, right? We're not gonna rewrite that. So let's go and copy some stuff over. That's gonna be in the client. So we have the graphics. And we have the renderer. Whoops. I moved it. We probably want the window code as well. I don't know what's in resource. Oh yeah, that's audio, okay? So let's grab resource, but we're gonna name that to audio. We probably need some error handling, and why not get a shader as well? We don't want the client in there. For the networking, I don't know if we did anything here. Yeah, you know what? We can just copy this as well, right? Can we copy and rename? There we go. And this will be, what is this thing? This is the net.rs. The server, I don't think we need to care about. Comms does nothing. Okay, so I think we have like resources to draw from now. Are you using event system in the engine? What engine? We literally just made the project, so it's hard to say. We just named it, so we are not using anything at the moment, right? But we're gonna make a little bit of a README here, so we can start building this up, right? Let's know that word, okay? So let's see. We'll do a to do or scope. Of course, you got to start from there. So the first thing you do, Jim, is you start from the name, then you order the business cards, buy the website, print some merch. Am I missing anything? Hello, Dodster. How you doing? So we want always networked. And the idea was to kind of make this simple in the previous incarnation with the big scope, the big engine that we started on, right? We were going to have that one always be networked, but the network handle would be a trait. So you weren't necessarily talking to a server, you were talking to a reference to a server instead of talking over a network, right? But I think we're going to skip that, right? Yeah, you gotta get some. You gotta get your investment deck up and running. You're gonna have your elevator pitch ready. You're gonna do all these things, right? Your SWOT reports and everything. Then you can start writing code, right? Ooh, what an annoying sound that was. No, I can't make it again. All right, so always networked. Maybe that's where we start then, right? We'll look at the interface we're drawing. Don't forget the AI integration to right. We need that to work as well. Okay. I'm already thinking, you know what's going to be fun? Font rendering. But let's not think about something as atrocious as font rendering and UIs. That would just be, we're just going to pretend that doesn't exist for now. So let's go with always networked, audio. Resources. I don't know what we're gonna call that. Do we need to have custom shaders? Too much work, Temporis. It's easier to just do font rendering. It's easier rather than doing that. We'll do some like sign distance field font rendering and text layout from scratch as well. All right. Okay, so we got audio resources, always networked. Single window. What else do we need? Yeah, LTR text as well, while we're at it, and RTL text as well, right? LTR is kind of a given for me, but RTL as well. So should we start with the networking, right? Now the way we're gonna do this is to have as little influence as possible when it comes to the networking, right? So we're gonna have 2 communications channel. We'll have UDP for. Do we have to use Tokyo for this? Should we do that? So what am I thinking here, right? So UDP for state, and so since UDP already have things like error checking built into it, is there any point in adding things like CRC to your payloads? I don't think so, because error handling is already built in there. So if the message doesn't pass whatever CRC or CRC like thing the UDP uses, it's going to dispose of it anyway. So instead, we kind of have like an ACK for messages. I think that's how we do this. Yeah. No Kickstarter page yet? No, we'll get there, Doddy. We'll get a Kickstarter page too. We get some AI generated art for a Kickstarter page as well that shows some kind of insane game and talk about how this thing has like an MMO with like a billion axes of movement and freedom, and every grain of dirt in the game is simulated physics, and it still runs on a potato. We just make these wild claims that simply is like they're physically impossible to uphold, right? No, yeah. All right. Anyway, so single window audio. So let's start picking at the networking, right? So networking. What do we need for this thing though, right? We need to have, if we're gonna add TCP in there, then we're probably going to be say, okay, so networking for LAN or for local networking or playing with friends on a VPS. This is not for MMO style games, right? So we're gonna just make sure that's clear from the go, right? Atom modeling, yeah, right. It'll be amazing. Okay, so we need 2 channels of communication. The lossy, well, should we do unordered? Maybe it would be ordered, but maybe we can do this on a channel, right? So we say that there's gonna be delivery over TCP, probably, right? So we have like a TCP connection for a guaranteed delivery. You think this is gonna last for 3 weeks? Oh, bless you and your beliefs in mankind. Okay. Didn't you know, Jews, the Twitch streamers are well known for releasing projects? They do this all the time. So guaranteed delivery over TCP. So if we want to do things like sign in, accounting, and chat and like accounting. Oh, here's my taxes. You game. These are wrong. That's not tax deductible. So if we want to do things like chat and have authentication, like login and stuff like that, then we do the over TCP just because it's so much easier, right? Probably. And then for UDP, we could have multiple channels, right? So let's say that we have message ordering over multiple channels. So I need to think on this for a second. Now, if we send small-ish packages, right? Absolutely, Russ. There's like a release radar for Twitch streamers projects. You can like see every week thousands of software and game dev streamers release projects, fully working order. So what was I thinking here, right? Yeah, so if we set up multiple channels and so one channel or a channel can be either ordered delivery or unordered delivery. So you configure the channel. So if we, for instance, want to have a channel for world state, which is probably what we will do, there would have to be a form of order delivery. But calling it ordered and unordered delivery is probably not the right word here, okay? Since what we will be sending... Okay, let's simplify this even more, right? So over UDP, we are going to be sending game state, sending game state deltas, okay? And then game state delta is cumulative in the sense that if the previous state was not act, then the current state is a combination of last attempted transfer plus current state, right? So we keep adding the world state to this. If there is no delta, then we send the entire world state, right? Yeah, and we're going to make sure that a lot of the tests we write, Juvis is also doing things like testing functionality from standard library. So if we insert something into a vector somewhere, we're going to write a test that just checks that the length has increased, right? That's absolutely time well spent. I can see that you're a little bit of a 10xer, a rock star, one might even say. All right, you got this. Bagels game. I have no idea what the Bagels game is. Now, do we need anything else going over UDP, because game state is roughly all that we care about? So we'll run the game on a server. We connect to the server. We run local simulations. We're still gonna do we're still gonna do all this stuff with the with the game, right? So the game state has to be the game state can't be a singular entity, right? It cannot be a singular type, because we're gonna send deltas. It has to be something that is broken down into something that we can apply on top, right? We need like changes. We're mostly gonna talk about entities in the world, where something is, trajectory isn't moving. Oh, welcome, Christoph. What are you doing streaming so early? How you doing? And also, how is this working? I thought the browser thing didn't work. Thank you for verifying that. That's crazy. Anyway, how you doing, buddy? Thank you so much for the sub. How's it going? We're taking a break from all the... Oh, there they are. Look at that. We have our socials back up again. Test early stream to test the camera for later today. Oh, what are you doing later today? What do you got going on? We're building a game engine from scratch, but with some caveats. Oh, is that the Bagels guy? I didn't know this. What it was called, right? Yeah, I was watching your stream yesterday. Sig Show has the info. All right, no problem. I was watching a stream yesterday, talking about. Oh, I love the pixelated font here, right? All right, that's cool. Yeah, I'm gonna try to tune in. Yeah, so I was watching a stream yesterday a little bit when you guys were talking about async Sig and if it was gonna be present in the 0.15 release, but I understood that it wasn't, right? But yeah, if I am not entirely swamped with stuff, I will definitely tune in because I'm really interested in like async stuff that happens with Sig and such, right? So that's cool. Yeah, I'll be there. I'll try to be there at least. Welcome, Raiders. Well, what we're doing here is we just came up with a small idea for a very limited scope game engine because I heard through the grapevine or some kind of grape, the wine maybe, that Rust does not have enough game engines. So I thought we're gonna do that, right? All right, have a good lunch. Maybe we can take over the chat though, Temporis, by just sitting there shilling Python all day. Be like, oh, this would be one line in Python. Oh my God, so much wording. All right, if this was in Python, it would have been done by now. What do you think, Temporis? Professional trolling. And then we'd be like, we were hired by Christoph to say this. Everyone will believe us. Is there anything else that we need to send? I don't think so. C# did async, but C# did do. They did async well, didn't they? And parallel. I remember when this stuff was announced, thinking that wow, this is pretty cool. It is Rust. I don't know you. I had no idea you didn't know this. I wouldn't say it was great. Well, I don't think I did much with async C#, but parallel C# was new when I left that world. And I remember thinking, wow, this was really simple to use, right? Oh, index, Doddy, index. So we basically have the client. The client will try. Oh, yeah. So we need like an input. We need input as well, right? Input. Input map. That should also be cumulative. Everything in C# is async now, yeah. But that's something that Sig is doing differently, I think. So we'll see what happens. It'll be interesting, right? Yeah, I think that's a common issue. That's not just C# though. That's a common issue with a lot of things, right? I mean, it sounds tempting, Jubas, but like metallurgy and ore mining and these kind of things, they don't really tickle my fancy as much as meaningless game dev, right? Oh, absolutely, Vincente. But we haven't gone full alpha male yet, though, right? I need to make sure that there's enough people who are as unhinged, though, right? Because otherwise, I'd just be a crazy person screaming at clouds, right? It kind of does, Russ. It kind of does. But here's a thing, dude, right? If we don't use things like an async runtime, that means that we're gonna have to spin up a thread for every. Maybe we skip TCP altogether. Maybe we do that. +1 for unhinged. Now you're going full meta there, Scott, right? I like your style. Okay, what if we skip TCP entirely, right? So what does that mean? Do you guys should we doodle a little bit, right? Look at this. Look at this. Doodle. Okay. If we do, oh man, Vincente, that's just an insane take. I can't even, right? We're gonna have to go and look at Christoph and keep an eye on him though, right? Because that we don't know where that's gonna end up, right? Now, should we move this thing around a smidge, right? Hang on to your sockets. Let's move you kind of over there so we don't cover chat and such, right? Yeah, so if we were to have one client, it's a bit weird when I can't see that well. All right, so this would be one client, and then we have another client here. And then we have the server here. And obviously, we do need a third client. Maybe if I could like hide the mouse cursor as well. You know what? Why do you care? I don't care about the mouse cursor. So this would, if this is through TCP/IP, then we need to have a reading thread and a writing thread for each connection, right? But if we do this over UDP, I just with two hands try to like slide this thing, but that's not how this works. There we go, right? If we instead did this with UDP, we have 1, 2, and 3 here, then the server could do all this in one loop, right? So we have the loop here, and then we read, and whatever we read, we get the address of either this, or this, right? So we can store all of these in a hash map. And we're going to read some data. So we read from, right? Oh no, it's gunked out again. Come on. There we go, right? I have to right-click away these things. I don't think this thing, the holding it upside down, works. It doesn't seem to do anything, right? But yeah, anyway, so I guess that's really all there is to say about this, right? We end up with a lot less threads if we do everything over UDP. There isn't really anything there. So it's blocking, but it kind of isn't at the same time, right? We have a buffer for our the kernel will buffer the incoming messages, right? So we are blocking trying to read. Then we can read a message, figure out what it is, who it's from, and then pass that on to next. So if someone is slow at writing to us, that's not a problem for us because the message won't appear in the buffer until it's ready. The only issue I can think of is when we want to write a message to a client. But when we write a message, we're also going to write that to an outgoing buffer as far as I know. So we'll write this to an outgoing buffer. And if we wanted to be a little bit clever about it, we could probably reduce syscalls by by gathering up few messages in a buffer and then making the syscall, but I don't know if we're gonna do that, right? So if we write to a slow connection, that is still just going to end up in the buffer. The issue becomes with the buffer filling, and I might be wrong here, so we should probably try to answer this before we continue, right? As a streamer, it's not possible for me to actually be wrong. So if I'm wrong, or if I give you the appearance of it being wrong, you kind of have to understand that you're just not clever enough to understand it. Okay, so let's just, now that we clear that up, okay, so let's see. Does UDP packets get written to a buffer via a syscall before they are sent? And let me catch up with chat first, right? +1 for unhinged. It's not Vincente that does that, Russ, okay? It's not Vincente. Could use a hash map for everything in the engine. Most likely we wouldn't do that because hash maps aren't the most efficient thing that we can use, right? Not that we need to be efficient, okay? We established that. I'm experimenting with Python socket library, trying to understand UDP. I'm a hardware person, dabbling in software. UDP seems simpler to get my head around than TCP. I am well aware that UDP does not guarantee. Oh, poor person. As far as I can follow tutorials to echo data back from a server to client. I'd like to push things to see what happens when applications don't follow the expected path. I detest writing things that hang when unexpected things happen. So I guess they mean blocking here, right? If a server binds a socket to a port number, then the client sends several messages to the port before the server calls receive from several times. I find that each call returns one message with the messages in order. In other words, the messages have been buffered. Later messages have not overwritten earlier messages in the queue. No, that should not happen. That would be bad because then you could overwrite someone else's message. I was not surprised to see this happen, but also would not have been surprised to find that only the last received message available, buffer length of 1. Is this buffer and its depth Python implementation detail, a Linux Mint Ubuntu detail, or defined by the UDP protocol? This is a good question. Let's have a look. In your OS network stack, nothing is guaranteed. The package might not arrive. Okay, blah, not what we're talking about. The UDP socket buffer size are an implementation detail of your OS network stack. Each OS tries to set a reasonable default size based on its expected use case, but you can override the OS default size up to some maximum value on a per socket basis by calling set socket ops. So I do think that we might be able to do this, but not in not on Windows, right? So set socket ops is probably only available on Linux. Yeah, there's a lot of things here that are nonsensical, right? Well, they're not nonsensical, but they're kind of nonsensical to us. So connect doesn't actually exist, right? Opens a TCP connection to a remote host. Wait, what are we looking at? Isn't this TCP UDP stream? UDP socket. That's what we're looking for. Okay, so set socket ops are probably not here. No. So a write timeout. That now we need like a set reset write timeout. We can do this if we want to prevent something from blocking too much, right? Well, we could test the buffer size by writing a lot of messages to it and then reading them. But I suspect that the buffer size is going to be in kilobytes, right? So we'd have to write a lot of messages and then I guess we could just make fixed payloads, right? And just write a bunch of them before we read. Why don't we do that? Why don't we do that to start with? And what better way to do that than adding a main RS file here, right? Where we do this. So we're gonna use the net UDP socket. Oh, mate. There we go, right? And then we're going to bind this to... Yeah, we weren't ready for that yet, right? We're going to bind this to localhost. 5,000, because why not, right? Let's have a buffer that we're going to read into. It will be 64 bytes. Now, we're not going to bind this socket, are we? Can we create a socket without binding one? Or do we have to bind it to a port? So connect is kind of a nonsensical thing, right? But we can use this. It kind of circumvents the need for receive from and send to on a single one, but there doesn't seem to be a way other than binding then, right? Okay, so we'll use connect then. Oh, oops. What do you want from me? 2 arguments. I gave you an argument. What do you want? Okay, right. So no, you have to bind it first then, right? All right. I guess it's not really an issue to do so. We'll just bind this and then we can do a send to, right? So let's start off by sending 10 messages and we're going to make our payload always be the byte sequence of a, we can do 128-bit integer, right? So we say for I in 0 to, let's send 100, right? To BE bytes to start with. But now we don't know what this thing is. So we have to say that this thing is, we can do a U64, right? So that's going to be what we're sending. So connection dot send to this doesn't seem right. There we go. Right, we'll unwrap that. Okay, so we have now sent 100 messages. So now we should be able to read 100 messages from this buffer, right? Let's just do this thing, and then we say for message in, or we can just make a loop here, right? Socket dot read from. Actually, we don't have to read. Yeah, we can do a read from, even though it doesn't really matter in this case. This will give us both the byte count and the sender. But we know that there's only one sender here, so we don't really care about that one. We do care about the byte count. Now, rather than just outputting the byte count, let's reconstruct the number, right? So we'll have a... I guess we can make the buffer smaller, right? By making it 8 bytes. So then we can say if the byte count is not equal to buffer.length, then we're gonna panic. And we're fine, right? Because that's what we read into the buffer. That's also the length of this message. Whoops. Then we'll reconstruct the integer here by saying U64 from big endian bytes, and we're gonna pass in the buffer. Okay, and then we can just print out the buffer. So here are our 100 messages, right? If we make 1,000 messages instead, it's going to be a lot of printing, but that seemed to have... okay, so we seem to have reached the end of the buffer, right? 221. So this would arguably mean that on our machine here, 221 times 8 is the maximum. So that looks like the MTU. I think that's just the MTU, isn't it? It seems a bit too small. Hello, Privan. Oh, it happens. Oh, my code was so bad you died. Okay, so I'm guessing that that's the MTU, the maximum transmission unit or something like that, right? Well, okay, then this message here is just wrong. It's just straight up wrong. So let's go here and comment that out then. There we go. I am super hungry. I would love it. I'd love to have some food. Okay, so this... I guess what we can do here, since this is not... Actually, no, this is not failing to send. It is successfully sending everything. If we just break here, this will just run to an end, right? And since we're unwrapping this, this should just be a unit, right? No. Okay, so this is the byte count. So this thing should continue to be 8, but I think we run into a situation where it's not. Nope, it is just 8. We are sending all the messages. Then what do we do, right? We are sending all the messages, but we are not receiving all the messages. We only received the first 221 messages. If we do this, this thing should end on 99, right? That's also fine. That's fine. This one will die here. Yeah. So what does that mean then? If we can send the messages, but we can't pick them up, they probably get disposed of. There is nothing in the buffer for us to read. We could do this in loops, right? So let's spawn a thread here. And we do this in a loop. We could say if I modulo 200, then actually this is not a loop yet. Now it is. Yeah, so we keep dumping messages over and over again. But we don't want to do this as a loop. We want to increase this to something like 10,000. Now, this is a very unlikely scenario where all your messages are delivered. So we can actually observe this now. Now, if we bump this to 222 messages or 23, I wonder what this will look like. We still get everything delivered. Okay, it could be that this is the buffer that we have. Yes, but what is the size of that? We are going to kind of have a continuous loop that just reads messages as we send updates. How stupid would it to drop them there? I'm not searching for either of those, but that might be what I should be searching for. I was curious to get just a hand wavy ID for the buffer size. Because if we... The server is really not going to be a problem though, right? Because that one's going to continuously read. Thank you so much, ModProg. Oh, you did? Oh, man, I still haven't fixed the violin, but maybe I need to up the ante a bit now and actually do that. I haven't figured out how to get the tuning screws to not just unwind. No, it's not the fine tuners. The fine tuners are the ones that sits down there. I'm talking about the tuning pegs, right? Maybe we have to go to ready for this. WikiHow. Ah, you give it the finger. Solution. If this is just going to be like push the peg further in, I've tried that. Yeah, it just doesn't stick. Wait, what's peg compound? Unwind and remove the string, loose the peg from the peg box, turn the peg counterclockwise to loosen. Wait, counterclockwise away from the scroll or clockwise away from... Okay, right. I understand because the different size now, right? Maybe. Check the bag for damage. It's cracked warp units. Wipe the bag dry and remove any grease or buildup that might cause it to slip. Okay, so maybe this is... Maybe I need peg compound. All right. I need peg compound to do this. All right. I shall find some of that then. You know how to play the violin? No, what Modprog said. Absolutely not. It sounds like glue. Maybe not use glue on your pegs though if you ever want to swap strings. A Pritt stick? What do you think? Okay. We just gone off on the metaphor end here, right? But what happens when the bucket is full then? All right, this is not happening for us though. Okay, but we know it's the OS. Wait, what? Each socket has its own buffer, and a socket buffer of fixed size and not super large. 32 to 128 kilobytes, not megabytes. It doesn't matter how much RAM the computer has in total. I don't know who said that, but yeah, so what we observed looked closer to like an MTU number rather than a buffer size though. So the question is, if we do this, that's because we do this on a thread. We only get 221 or 1768 bytes, right? Red Loctite for bolts. Get a bigger bucket. I can tune it, but I needed to stay tuned. But I think the Pritt stick is the way to go then. I should try that. Yeah, I'm guessing that as well. If that's the number, it's definitely larger than this number, Ross. So I would have thought that the socket is at least over 8 kilobytes, right? Around that space, at least. Yeah, mine too. How do you know that's the UDP buffer size though, Russ? I'm asking for a friend. And all the messages were written. So if the byte count is not equal to 8, then panic. But it never panics. So we are writing them. So we seem to be able to write that many messages, but we can't read those messages, right? Maybe that's how it goes. Maybe that's how it goes, right? I'm good, Jubas. I'm good. I know you can post away, Russ. Don't bother me. Don't bother me, buddy. Don't bother me. Okay, so we are able to fill. Let's make this thing be the problem instead. Let's go with. So if we say that the buffer is 32K, that would be times 32, right? So we're looking at that number for our buffer size, right? We're guessing that this is the buffer size. And that means that the number of messages has to be the buffer size divided by 8. And that should be the message count here. And that's fine. What if we just multiply that by 2? All right, so it's not 32K. What if we think it'd be closer to that then? Or we could try this number. That looks like it's coinciding with that. So instead of 32K, we say that the buffer size is equal to 212 kilobytes. That's still fine. Even if we double that. Okay. You mean this one? Yeah, you do what is it? Control R equal sign. And you can math it up a little. It's very useful. Okay. I would say that this is a failed experiment. Because even if we double it or quadruple it, it still seems fine. We don't seem to fail filling up the buffer, right? Well, we're not changing the buffer. I'm trying to figure out what the internal buffer is, but it doesn't seem to be an issue, right? We seem to be able to dump quite a lot of data in there without getting into any issues with the writing. Well, I say that, but we're doing multiple sends. Yeah, but it has to be like that because the MTU will prevent us from sending any larger packages, right? But it probably is just disposing of the messages in the buffer in that case. So we are probably never running out of we're probably never going to block on a write. This will probably finish and be fine, right? We could try to set the read timeout, right? But not only does it not give us any errors, it also claimed that we have written 8 bytes every time, right? So we are writing a lot, but we're never reading anything. Now, the interesting question here would then be if... Well, let's just not wait that long. So we end up with 221 again. So this means that the old messages seem to be in the buffer, but no new messages are coming in. So if we were to do this... No, we can't pause them. We could actually. We could synchronize them this way. Will there be a buffer in the send? I don't know what you mean. You have a write buffer, but we don't have a... Like, are you talking about an outgoing buffer, Russ? Is that what you're talking about? So we have a buffer that we're reading from and one that we're writing to. I think we're just gonna go with this. Now it's all good. I think we're good. I think we have what we need, right? We're just gonna go with this for now, and we can tweak this going forward. At a whoops, wrong window. We tweak this going forward, so I think we're good. So we are constantly sending snapshots of the game state. And we are constantly sending our input map as well. Or rather, what will be the result of reading the input map. and what have you, right? Okay. I think we're good. Then what's next? It's gonna be the well, since we're always reading and we're always writing, I don't think there's any risk of anything. My concern was this: what happens when one connection is slow? But I don't think that's going to be an issue, because when it becomes an issue if we go to write, but it seemed to be fine with that, right? I do not, Scott. I'm working on a video for the hack bar, but that's probably not a good. It's not going to be a good video for that. I'm so hungry. What time is it? It's not food o'clock. Okay. Out of all the packets, it's not going to be a problem, right? Because we're going to send our packages with, so we do something like this, right? Our packet will contain let's just do something like this, right? It will contain a header, and that will be something like the payload length, and it will contain maybe like an ID, right? A numerical value that is constantly incrementing until it's wrapping. And if it's wrapping, we're basically, when we do an ID check, we're just checking that the ID is either +1 from the last or minus a large number kind of thing, right? So that's going to be the header. So when I send a message, and then the rest is just going to be data, right? So when I send a message from here to here, I send one with ID 1, and this guy will then ACK back ID 1. And if he doesn't do that, if this never happened, then I will send another one, which is 1 + 2. until this guy will act back too, right? So the method is to, but it will be a combination of the previous state. Now we're talking specifically about sending game state, right? So we don't have to worry too much about that. We just keep sending the same data over and over again until we get a response from the client going, all right, thank you, I got it. Stop shouting at me, right? Says the client. And then we'll be like, all right, cool. Now you're getting this instead, right? So if we just put the content length and the ID in the header of the packet, and we make this into something like, let's see if we have like the net code here, right? We don't, this is something else, right? But what if we do something like a frame here that holds a header, and we have a header here. I don't know. So this header value should probably be a byte instead, right? Which will contain information about what kind of message this is, all right? Then we have the length, which will be a U16. Okay. So we can't go larger than a U16 unless we want to be able to send multiple messages that should be buffered to make a whole. Let's say that we want to send a 4K texture. We might need more than but what is it set to? More than that for the whole message, right? So we need to have some kind of continuation in the header. Actually, the header should probably be something like a heartbeat, a single message, or a continuation, or a multi-message, right? So if we're sending a multi, that means the subsequent messages are continuation messages, and this will be a repr U8. Okay, so we can just slap this into the frame for the header, and then we can read into an external buffer here. So our buffer is a mutable. I don't know what that would be, right? I mean, we do have this, so why don't we use this here as well, right? Something like this. So we will read the first byte. No, that's going to be the first byte. Yeah, the first byte in the buffer will be that, right? All right, sorry, let me take that away. Might be not used to having that. I kind of need I need that key to start up Infinity board as well. So pressing this key should start up Infinity board and show that. So for instance, this would be, we're going to assume that this is 1, or let's go with something like 32 or whatever, right? So if the lower bytes or lower bits are set, or rather, if the higher bits aren't set, we assume that this is a malformed message and just dispose of it, right? So that would be then subsequently 33, 34, and 35, right? So we start from there. The frame can do the reading for us. So when we read into this buffer, we can deal with this. So we kind of have something set up here already that can do things where we can send messages to it. But we were talking about these kind of channels to have. So we're sending, let's say that a message needs to have, right? Let's have an ID here. Maybe that should be a U16 as well. That we kind of just keep incrementing, but wrapping. So this means that there are several ways that we can deal with this now, right? We can have like a message queue that we keep building up. Yes. All right, hang on. Okay, I'll deal in a second. So let's say that we send messages to some connection, and we send message 1. They don't get that. Now we can combine message 1 with message 2, and so on and so forth, right? But if we eventually we will run out of the MTU space, right? We can't send messages larger than this. And we should probably not even use that size. I think we kind of have, yeah, I don't remember where this number comes from. It was probably some arbitrary number, but if a package is going to be larger than this, then we have to make it into a multi-message instead. Right? And we can let that transition happen naturally, right? So as we keep building up messages, we need larger buffers for each connection, right? So each connection actually needs to hold a small buffer and a large buffer, maybe. So we can do things like write the network messages. But what if we because again, messages aren't necessarily delivered in order. So we could theoretically try to send a 4K texture, that we start sending a 4K texture, then we send a world state update, and then we send another part of the 4K texture to the client. So the client will get the first part of the or a small portion of the texture. Then it will get something completely different. But if we get a frame that is a multi, we kind of need to know what the next continuation of that is, right? So maybe that needs to start its own counter, right? So if we have a multi-message, then we have the previous message, and we can't, again, send messages larger than the MTU. So we have to just keep trying to send that message over and over again until the client acts it. All right. Bear with me a second. Hang on. This might take a minute or two. Okay. We're good. The MTU can be configured like by your router and everything, Hilden. Like MTU changes they can even be out of our control, right? So this is a reasonably small MTU. I don't know where it came from, but I think it's probably fine. It makes things chatty, but I'm not too worried about that. Again, this stuff is supposed to run locally or like on a small server that you play something with friends, right? So this is definitely not supposed to be something where you are you're kind of playing with thousands of other people on something, right? So maybe we need like a channel for this stuff, right? So the channel can be configured to act in a certain way. Okay, I think we sort of have an idea for how this can work, even though it doesn't do anything. So let's move on to, well, no, wait, we're not done yet. We need to actually get something working with this. Yeah, that's in. What am I doing? We can't move away from this now. Let's get this thing working with what we have. So let's start by opening up our lib and let's add a module for net in here. And should we just have the connection there? Okay, so is this going to be too much stuff in the root? Maybe. Yeah, let's not do that. Let's just make that public and not worry about it. And this is what? This is Lunatic. So use Lunatic net connection. All right, so let's start a connection here. Pretend that this is our server. Unwrap. Is this a thing or did I just make that up? Oh, really? I thought it wasn't private. It is. Okay. So we have a bind and we should have a listen as well. No, bind is better because that's how it goes, right? And then this is supposed to be the size of the buffer for that connection. Since we're not really expecting wait a second. Maybe this isn't what I'm looking for. So we have the read from. And a send to. The slice should probably be moved away from there. Maybe we build this in here, right? Because the whole point is that we don't make this thing super complicated, but rather make it very simple instead. So we can do simple. Jesus freaking what? Oh. Okay. No. Stupid life. Okay. So here we do this, but this doesn't allow us to read large messages, right? So we need to have a big buffer on a connection. That is just an empty byte buffer. So the big buffer is, and we're allowed to read things into that one, but it will never be, it should never be unbounded though, right? We should have something where we say enough is enough kind of thing, right? I think since our MTU is already set here, maybe we should use the MTU for this instead of being const generic. There isn't really any value in configuring the size here when we set it up because they're all gonna depend on the same thing. But we are going to have we're gonna have to do things like negotiate bandwidth and stuff, right? With every connection. So when something connects, we have to figure out how frequently we're going to send data there, right? So if you're on a really slow and crappy connection, we should maybe limit the server frame rate to like once or twice per second. And if you're on a really good connection, it could be 20, 30 times per second, right? I don't know. So we don't overwhelm a connection. I think that should be fine. But again, this is going to be about how we deal with our messages, right? So I should be able to send a payload, a portion of a payload to one connection, and then another payload to another connection, and then the continuation to the first one. So that's kind of how we're going to do this. We're going to write all this data. So the server needs to have some kind of outgoing queue as well. We should probably pick a serializer for things as well. We'll start off with JSON just so we can read the data, and then we swap it to like bin code or something. It's not really important. I don't care. All right, we just swap it something else. But we can start off with JSON so we can at least observe the data. So we can do that. I think we get rid of the const generics from here, and then we just use the MTU for this. I mean, we already have that there already to do something, so some kind of dumbassery has already happened. Okay, so what do we have? We have large messages. We have guaranteed order. Now, here's the thing. There are messages that you don't care about. So let's say that I send a message as to where I am in the world. We're not gonna allow these kind of messages anyway, but let's conversely say this, right? On frame 1, I am at 00. On frame 2, I'm at 55. On frame 3, I'm at 79, whatever, right? So if I fail to send the first frame, which says that I'm at 00, and I get to sending my next frame, the 00 value is meaningless, all right? Now, we'll do this with state reconciliation instead, right? But the 00 is meaningless because the data is stale. It doesn't mean anything. If I am sending you a chat message, then the message has to appear in order, otherwise we're snookered, right? Because it becomes insane to try to keep up with that conversation. All right. Okay. So can we skip these sort of ephemeral messages? Or should we just say that all messages behave like that except the continuation messages, right? So if I try to send a state to you and then I send another message on seemingly the same channel, if you haven't received the first one, then why would you care? Right? There is no point in it. So if I send you the state and you don't act the state, then there's no reason for me to try to resend this. So all we have to do as clients is act the last message we received. Okay, so let's build an ACK in there as well then, right? So let's have an ACK, which, well, now we can't do this anymore, right? But it has to contain the frame. Well, not really. The payload can contain the frame number, so that's fine. Right? So I can add this to the connection, right? So whenever I read something, then I can act that, right? This becomes the two generals problem, doesn't it? Right? Generative AI, no. So what I'm saying is, if I send a message to you, message 1, and you send an ACK to me, then I have to ACK your ACK, right? And then you have to ACK my ACK of your ACK when I ACK your ACK, right? So you see the problem there. And I think that's the two generals problem, right? So how do I do this? We just send the message. No, we can't ACK. That's impossible. But we never know if we get the ACK then, Temporis. Well, we don't need to recover. That's the other thing. We just need to send messages. So what if we have something that looked a bit like this then, right? I will have an outgoing buffer of messages here, right? So I'm going to put message number 1 in here, and then I'm going to send this, okay? And then I don't care about waiting for an ACK. I'm going to put message number, well, it doesn't matter what we put here, right? Number 2 here, and then I send that, okay? But I also send 1 and 2. I send both of these. Unless we do the reconciliation thing, right? So then we're gonna get to the third message here, and I'm sending now the third message. Now here we get a reply, and the reply says, "Oh, I received your second message." Okay, so we can skip this, and then all we send are these messages, right? And then we keep sending these messages until we get a respond with, "Oh, I received the third one." At that point, we might be up to something else, right? If you miss a pack and you get a future pack, yes, that's why we need to have like 6 packages, up to like 6 packages or whatever that we just keep sending until we get like up to, sorry, let me rephrase that. Up to, so we have a back buffer that we keep sending until we get Axe for these things, right? I think that's maybe how we do it. I think that's maybe how we do it. So we're sending messages until we... So this means that we'll have a continuous stream of messages, right? Until everything has been acted. But there will be a continuous stream anyway, because we have to send things like our inputs and other things, right? So we're just gonna have like a very chatty back and forth going on, right? That's how I identify modprog. All right, okay. Let's see if we can make some sense out of this thing. Okay. So sending this game networking site with a rabbit. Red Blob Games? No, it's not Gaffron Games. I don't remember a rabbit there. Thanks, silly. It's to express my alpha maleness. Is it working? Okay. I saw a dog with a Burberry scarf today. It's worth noting. Should we do this? Should we take a break? I'm a little bit stuck in my head, and with this, I'm only half paying attention. So I need to go and see to the animal. I can't relax. Let's take a break here. I'll try to like come back in an hour or so unless I pass out. It's been such a long day. And we get back into this thing, right? I don't think these are particularly difficult problems that we're talking about. It's more that my attention span is divided. So let's do that, okay? Yeah. There is a lot going on. So, okay. Sorry for the short streams. 2 hours is not particularly good, but I'm gonna try to get back into it in a little bit. I just need to like get myself sorted, and we build this thing, right? I think from here on out, or like once we build this thing, we kind of we're sort of heading in our direction, at least, right? All right. Cheers all. Thank you.